Hi and welcome to our tutorial 5 key beginner poses. I'm Dom Cato, this is my husband Nick Cato, he is our model and student for today. We're going to start out in child's pose. You're going to get one little bonus key beginner pose is child's pose. Beautiful pose to come back to at any point in your practice that you need to just take a moment, take a breath and reset everything. Child's pose, you're sitting with your bum on your heels, forehead down onto the mat, or propped up onto your hands or on a block. Really good to take a moment to breathe. Moving now into our first key beginner pose is downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So from child's pose, you're going to reach your arms as far forward as you possibly can. Really scoot your fingertips out away from you. You're feeling a lengthening through your shoulders and your armpits. When you've scooched your fingers out as much as you can, come up onto your hands and your knees without moving your hands at all. Okay, so your knees should be directly underneath your hips, feet directly back behind your knees. Your hands are very important in this pose. So you want to make sure that you're spreading your fingers as wide as you can, pinky fingers touching the edges of your mat, middle fingers pointing straight forward. This is super important to keep your wrist, elbow, and shoulder in alignment. So always make sure that middle finger is pointing straight forward. Hands are spread nice and wide. You don't want to take the weight into your wrist. So make sure you're pressing each and every knuckle and fingertip down into the mat. You're pressing the whole of the palms of your hands down into the mat. So that if somebody had to come around and try and pick your finger up off the mat, it wouldn't be possible to do that. So your hands are pressing strongly into the mat. Fleshy bits of your elbows are facing in towards one another, and you're moving your shoulders away from one another. So you're opening up your upper back. From here, you're going to tuck your toes under and just lift your knees slightly up off the mat. A little bit higher. Okay. And then press your chest all the way through to your knees. So try and get your heart to touch your knees. Keep your knees bent for now. Stay on the balls of your feet. Very important, hands are pressing down. Middle fingers pointing straight forward. Fleshy bits of your elbows facing each other, and your shoulders are moving outwards, up and out. So you want to imagine your shoulder blades are being tucked in towards your armpits. Okay, so you're opening up this upper back. The point of this pose is not to get your heels down. The point of this pose is to have a beautiful, long, straight spine. So you want to push your chest back as much as you can. Move those shoulders out away from each other. Suck your lower rib cage in, suck your belly button in. Keeping your torso exactly like this, start to straighten your legs out as much as your body allows without your spine moving. Ultimately, you want to straighten your legs and bring your heels down, but that's not important right now. Trying to point your bum, your sit bones straight up to the ceiling and move your legs, your thighs backwards away from you. Come down to your knees for a moment. Sit back onto your heels, forehead to the mat. Just take a moment here in child's pose, catch your breath. Down dog seems like a very simple pose, but it is quite complex. There's a lot of stuff going on in this pose. So just take a moment, a deep breath in and a long breath out. When you're ready, come up into downward facing dog again. So reach your arms forward. Come up onto hands and knees. Get your setup, hands are perfect, elbows, shoulders. Tuck your toes under, lift your bum. Push your chest backwards towards your thighs, suck belly button in. Have a little bit of an arch in your back, so you're popping your bum up to the ceiling, moving thighs backwards away from you. Come right up onto the balls of your feet and have a look at the ankle creases. So high up onto the balls of your feet. Look at your ankle creases. So now that you're on the balls of your feet, there are no creases. As you start to lower your heels down, try and make sure that you don't allow those ankle creases to come back. So you're creating space in your ankle and pushing your thigh, your shins backwards. All right, breathing beautifully and fully. Remember, those shoulders are moving away from each other. Beautiful. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Next, start to walk your feet all the way up towards your face. All right, bring your toes and heels to touch. Bend your knees slightly, tuck your chin to your chest, and start to round up through your spine. All right. Nick, can you turn to face the audience, please? All right. Moving now into Tadasana, mountain pose, our most important standing pose. So you're bringing toes and heels to touch. Try, if you can't get your heels all the way together, that's fine. Make sure your big toes are touching. Focus on your feet for a moment. Lift your toes up off the mat. Spread them as wide as you can. It's okay if that pinky finger gets involved. It's a natural reflex. And then lower each toe one by one, starting with the baby toes. All right. Once you've done that, you're grounding your toes into the mat. Rise up onto the balls of your feet. So come up onto the balls of your feet, stretch the soles of your feet, check what your balance is like today, and then gently lower your heels back down to the mat. You're grounding down through the four corners of each foot. So through the two corners in the balls of your feet, two corners in the heels of your feet, and lifting the arches of your feet. You do that by gently moving your ankle bones just slightly away from each other. And you can feel your feet are super active and you're feeling a lift through the arches of your feet. You want to continue that lift all the way up your shins, lifting your kneecaps, engaging your quads. So quads are strong and solid. Your legs are strong and solid. Slightly tuck your tailbone under by clenching your bum muscles. Okay, so you don't want your bum sticking out. You don't want to be too far forward. You want to just slightly tuck your tailbone so you start to engage those core muscles to help you stand in a strong, solid posture. Lifting your heart up as much as you can. Shoulders move back and down, but then suck that lower rib cage in, again stimulating the core muscles to work. Shoulders are parallel to the floor. Relax down your spine. Hands are relaxed but gently facing forward. Chin is parallel to the floor. And you want to imagine that somebody's pulling you up through the crown of your head. So you're lifting, that lift that comes from the arches of your feet goes all the way through your body, through into the crown of your head. So as much as you're grounding down through your feet, you're also lifting up through the crown of your head. Tadasana mountain pose brings about a confidence and a stability, a groundedness, that you're standing strongly in your own 2 feet. You are capable of whatever you set your mind to. Tadasana is bringing all of the energy in towards the midline. So you're pressing the bottom half of your body up and the top half of your body down. You're pressing the front side of your body back and the back side of your body forward. You're pressing the right side of your body to the left and left side of your body to the right. So everything is squeezing in towards the midline and you're sending the energy upwards. This is a magnificent pose when you're standing in a queue at the shopping center. Take this pose, take Tadasana. It starts to engage all those important core muscles, keeps your posture stable and strong, and keeps you in the present moment. As we move through our other postures, you want to try and embody this balanced, comfortable, grounded state of Tadasana in all the other poses. All right, come to stand at the front of your mat again, toes and heels to touch. Find your Tadasana pose. All right, moving through a bit of vinyasa to get us to our next pose. So inhale, reach your arms up, palms touch, gaze at your thumbs. Exhale, hands through your heart, fold all the way forward. Up onto fingertips, inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. You know downward facing dog well now. So set up your down dog, hands are working strongly, shoulders moving away from each other, everything sucking in, moving back, heels pushing down. into our next key beginner pose, plank pose. Moving yourself forward into one straight line. So you want to bring your shoulders over your wrists. Hips are down, so you don't want to pop your hips up or sink your hips down, drop your hips. You want to keep this lower back safe and secure. So shoulders are above your wrists. Neck is in line with your spine. You're looking straight down to the floor. You want to press up in between your shoulder blades. So press into my hand, press, press, press. Tucking your tailbone under, again by clenching your bum and engaging the core. So you're really sucking your belly button in. If I push down, neck's not going anywhere. Okay. Pressing strongly back into your heels. Legs are active and strong. Plank pose, one straight line. Making sure, please make sure that you're not sinking those hips down and hurting your lower back. You should be strong and solid like a plank of wood. If you have a look, this is Tadasana pose, just with a different relationship to gravity. So everything that was going on in Tadasana is going on in this pose too. Inhale here. As you exhale, push back, downward facing dog. Drop down to your knees for a moment. Sit back onto your heels, forehead to the mat. Come into child's pose just to catch your breath for a moment. Beautiful deep breath in. And long, slow breath out. All right, walking your hands out ahead of you again. Inhale, tuck toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. You're getting to know downward facing dog quite well now. Once you become super intimate with down dog, it becomes a resting pose like child's pose is. Moving on to our fourth key pose for beginners. Inhale to step your right foot forward in between your hands. Grab that ankle, help it forward if you need to. Bring your back heel down onto the mat. All right. And come to a standing position. Bring your hands to your hips to start off with. Okay, we're working into Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1 pose. So your stance can be quite wide depending on your body. It is very, very important that that back heel stays down on the mat. So you've got to ground that back heel. It's also important that your back toes aren't moving out to the side, that you're bringing those back toes in because it helps to bring that hip around. Exactly. So front foot, toes are pointing straight forward. Again, like we did with the fingers, with the hands, the middle fingers pointing straight forward. Your toes must always be pointing straight forward to align your leg all the way up into your hip to keep your joints safe. Back heel is down on the mat. Hips are square. So you're pulling your right hip backward, pushing your left hip forward. Making sure that both of those hip bones are facing directly forward, and that ensures that your sacrum, that flat part of bone in your lower back, is safe and it's not at an angle or twisting. Okay. In this pose, that sacrum, your hips are more important than bending into your knee. So you're only bending into your knee as much as your body can handle without your hip moving out to the side. So gently bend into that front knee without your hip moving. Keep going, keep going, keep going. You can take a little bit of a wider stance if necessary. Hands come together at your heart. Inhale to reach your arms up. You want a hand to heart connection so that your hands are always doing the work of your heart. Palms touch, you looking up to your thumbs. Sucking your lower rib cage in, sucking your belly button in. Try not to lean too far forward, so you're leaning back a little bit, but don't ease off on that bend. Okay, so sucking everything in, grounding into your back foot. You want to cut the outer edge of your foot into the mat and lift up through the arch of your foot. Yes, like a Tadasana foot. Hips are square. Shoulders are relaxed and down your spine. Shoulders and ears don't like each other. Keep them away from each other. Beautiful, strong Warrior 1 pose. Everything sucking in towards the midline. Inhale here. As you exhale, open hips, chest, and arms out to the side. Take a wider stance for Virabhadrasana 2. Okay. Front foot should bisect your back foot. Back foot toes turning in slightly. Grounding into the outside edge of that foot. So really pressing into this part of your foot and lifting up through the arch like your Tadasana foot again. Back leg is straight and strong. Front leg, you're going to bend into your front knee. Okay. This time in Virabhadrasana 2, your knee is more important than your hip. So it's okay if that hip comes in slightly. You want your thigh parallel to the floor, knee at a 90-degree angle. So Nick, you can take a bit of a wider stance. You've got lovely long legs. Yes. Bend into that front knee. Bend, 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 bend. Don't let your torso come forward. So pull torso back without straightening the leg. Again, tuck your tailbone under by clenching your bum. Suck belly button in, lower rib cage in. Make sure that your body is square to the front, shoulders are relaxed, and arms are in one straight line, engaging biceps and triceps in towards your humerus. Gaze is over your front middle fingers. Relax your shoulders. You can bend a little bit deeper. And you can see Nick's leaning a bit too far forward, so we got to bring you back a little bit. Back a little bit. Yes, there we go. Don't forget about this back arm must be up in line with your shoulders. Relax your shoulders. Shoulders should be directly above your hips. Okay, Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 pose. Always moving your knee towards your baby toe so that knee doesn't collapse inwards. Pull your knee towards your baby toe. Beautiful. Inhale, hands down alongside your front foot. Exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Drop down to your knees for a moment, sit back onto your heels. Take a moment in child's pose. Beautiful deep breath in and a long breath out. All right, repeating those two poses on the other side. So coming back into downward facing dog. Get your down dog set up, hands, arms, shoulders, engage, push, heels back, thighs back. Inhale to step your left foot forward in between your hands. Ground your back heel and come up to stand. Hands at your hips. All right, remember, hips in this pose are more important than your knee. So back heel is pressed down, cutting into the outside edge of your foot, lifting that arch of your back foot. Left hip moving back, right hip moving forward. Inhale here. As you exhale, bend into your front knee as much as your body allows without this hip coming out to the side. Hands come together at your heart. Inhale, reach your arms up, gaze to your thumbs. Try not to lean too far forward. You want to lean backwards a little bit. This is a slight back bend, so lean back towards me more. Yes. Relax your shoulders. Moving your shoulders out away from each other, away from your ears. Arms are strong and straight, hand to heart connection, gazes at your thumbs. Inhale here. As you exhale, open hips, chest and arms out to the side. For Virabhadrasana 2, you can widen your stance. Front foot bisects your back foot, front toes pointing straight forward. Inhale here. As you exhale, bend into that front knee. Thigh comes parallel to the floor. As you bend, make sure you're pulling your knee towards your baby toe. Okay, again, Nick, you can take a bit of a wider stance. So you want your knee directly above your ankle. You don't want that knee going over your ankle. You want to protect your knee joint. So beautiful wide stance, pressing into that back foot, lifting up through the arch of your foot. Tuck tailbone under, suck belly button in, relax your shoulders down your spine. Arms in one straight line. Again, don't forget about this back arm. Turn to look over front middle fingers. Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 pose. Beautiful. Inhale, hands down alongside your front foot. Exhale, step back, downward facing dog. Dropping down to your knees, sitting back onto your heels into child's pose. So that is our 5 key beginner poses. If you can master these poses physically and with the breath, you're well on your way to a conscious yoga practice. Thank you for joining us for this tutorial. We'll see you in the next one.